Hello everyone and happy Halloween! It's not often I'm going to get to say that on a Cook With Me Live. So tonight I am actually live with you in the kitchen again. I know it's been a little while. As much as I can, I'm going to try to come and be live with you so that we can interact by you asking me questions and me being able to respond by voice as much as I can. But the reality is that sometimes the schedule's not going to allow that. So we're going to make it a bit of a flexible mix of both. The advantage of it being pre-recorded is that the videos will be a little bit shorter if you're watching it on replay. And the advantage of you watching it live with me now is that you can, like I said, ask questions. I can answer it verbally. And if I'm not here verbally live with you, then I can always answer it in the text, as we have been for all the past videos when they've gone live. So just a little bit of an update as far as the Cook With Me Live videos go. Now tonight's a little bit special because it's Halloween, and I'm sorry I didn't really dress for the occasion. I figure I'm kind of like a croaky green frog today because got a little bit of frog thing going on here at the moment. But either way, I want to show you how to make popcorn. I get a lot of questions about popcorn because it's a nice healthy snack for many people. It's a nice way to wean yourself off of some maybe lesser choices of snacks, and it's really not that hard. The other cool thing about it though is that we can do so many different flavors with it. We can go savory, we can go sweet, we can go spicy, we can go herby, we can just do so many different things. So although I've given you only the one kind of specific flavoring recipe there, I want to show you just how flexible you can be when it comes to flavoring up your own popcorn, and how simple it's going to be to make. So that hopefully this can be a new snack for the kids' lunchboxes. It can be something that you make yourself for movie nights instead of maybe relying on the slightly more nasty ingredients of the microwave popcorn bags or other things like that. So really would love to emphasize here that when it comes to corn products, it's pretty important to be choosing organic corn, simply because corn is a pretty commonly genetically modified crop nowadays. So definitely would recommend that you can choose an organic kernel, and that way then you're going to get the best quality as well as usually the sweeter taste. So it's a bit of a win-win situation either way. Now you might think with this size of a jar, I absolutely love my popcorn. I don't often actually get to it. I still try to keep it a bit of a treat, but it keeps for a very long time in a well-sealing jar, so you can do that. All right, so who do we have on with us today? Give me a little holler. I want to talk to you guys. This is why I love coming on live with you, because I actually feel like we can reconnect and be in your kitchen together. So hello, Gary, welcome, thank you. And Kim Riley's on with us. Excellent, give me a little holler, guys. Let me know where you're cooking from. And if you've got anyone else in your kitchen that wants to learn how to make popcorn at this moment, because I would love to help them learn how too. And then we're going to get stuck straight in, okay? So what you will need is a big saucepan, aka pot. Some people like to call this a soup pot. Probably this or a little bit bigger, depending on the size or quantity of popcorn that you want to make. Now, one interesting thing with the popcorn, a lot of people think they have to make just enough for that batch, but you can actually make enough for tomorrow, even the day after. As long as you're going to put it into a well-sealing container, then you can actually have this snack on hand fairly easily by keeping it sealed for the next couple of days. So that will also potentially facilitate putting it into lunchboxes, and you could even put them in little lunchbox sort of single serving containers as well. And then as long as you don't open the container before the next 2 or 3 days as it's served, then it should stay fairly nice and crispy for the kids' lunchboxes as well. So that's another option. Okay. Hello, Nadine. Yes, long time no see, and tuning in from Perth. Excellent, thank you. Amanda, welcome. Hello, hello. Amanda, your 4-year-old is in the kitchen while you eat your dinner. He loves popcorn. Excellent. Okay, so is popcorn maybe going to be the dessert? Maybe you can see the different flavors we're going to play with, and then you can decide which one you're going to make for dessert. I'd love to hear what you choose. Okay, so here we go. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. If you are wanting to do this the kid-safe way, either that or you have kind of younger teens making the popcorn for you, you can just put your 1/3 cup of popcorn into the pot with the cold oil, cold pot, cold oil, everything, and then put the lid on and put it on high heat. Okay, now you probably want to be there if it's on high heat anyways with them, but that is probably going to be a slightly safer way rather than heating up the oil first and putting the popcorn in. The difference will be Not necessarily too noticeable in texture. You might just get a slight difference between chewiness versus crispness. Okay, so again, you can have a play with that, but getting that sort of temperature right for how the kernels cook is really the only differentiator that's going to make it go from either a slightly chewy popcorn or a slightly crispier, lighter popcorn texture. Okay, so nothing complicated here. We pretty much just need to heat these up at a pretty high heat. And the faster we do that, then the lighter and fluffier the pop will be, as a general rule. Okay, so I might get you to come on back. We're gonna make this popcorn on the stove, and then we're gonna flavor it back up here. So let's get ourselves set up. And I hope everyone that is watching can be doing this at the same time as me, because it's so easy. So here we go. Let's do it the slightly, I guess you could say, crispier way for those of you that are really particular about your popcorn texture and that you want to mimic the fairly exact way that you'd be getting. I don't want to say the exact way you'd be getting at the movie theaters, because I really don't like that popcorn anymore. I actually find it's extremely fake tasting once you have the real stuff. So I'm going to do about 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. Now, this is the third press coconut oil, and those of you have probably heard me harp on about this a fair bit, but in case you haven't, there is a difference between the extra virgin, the virgin, and the third press coconut oil. Now, I say third press because that's how they process it, but in the shops or in the language on the package, it'll either say cooking coconut oil, refined, in this case, coconut oil, or deodorized coconut oil, okay? Now, yes, it's had a little bit more processing than the other ones, but the reason for that is when we go to this high heat temperature, the stuff, the components of the extra virgin and the virgin coconut oil that are really good for us are the very things that turn bad when overheated. So that's why we do want this slightly more processed version, as in the third press of it, is because we're not going to get those components that are going to potentially turn bad at the high heat level. So, and it's also going to have pretty much zero coconutty flavor. Most people, I've never had anyone be able to tell the difference in this. Okay, so I need to stop talking and act here because I've got this on high heat. The oil is melting. We still have a little bit of the coconut unmelted there. And I'm going to just put 3 kernels in or so now. Okay, and we're going to put the lid on. So we're going to wait until those kernels pop, and as soon as that happens, then we'll know where the temperature of our oil is at. Okay, so remember I said before, really the only thing that's going to determine the texture of the popcorn is how quickly those kernels can pop. So if we put them into the hot oil, we're likely to get a better result. So the only reason I'm swirling this oil around here is to get an even temperature in the oil and therefore in the kernels. Okay, and the more even it is, then the less likely we are to get some burnt popcorn, which nobody likes the burnt flavor. And I'll tell you how to avoid that too once we hear it pop. So definitely have to have the lid on here. And I would recommend using your highest, hottest burner. So biggest burner, hottest temperature. It's just one of these things that goes better that way. If the kernels sit in there a bit too long without popping, then that's when they tend to go a bit tough, I find. So how's everyone going so far? Oh, we had our first pop. Okay, so with the first pop, we're going to take it off the heat. Okay, hopefully onto a dry area. And we're going to leave that burner on because we're going to act fairly quickly. Now this is the area where you have to be very careful, okay? And this is why I say this is not necessarily the kid-safe method. So I'm working away from the heat, and I'm always going to open up the lid away from my face, okay? So we open up the lid like this, and there will be some spattering if there's moisture or condensation on the lid. So this is why you always open it away from yourself. And then we're going to put these kernels in and get them popping. Okay, so that was about 30 seconds that I'd waited off the heat, which is good to kind of let that chill out a bit. And then we can go, you could do another 30 seconds here of swishing. Otherwise, as long as we're kind of giving it a gentle swirl and the temperature remains equal as much as possible, then we should get a good result here. So I might have explained that a bit long, but the point is it's really easy. Once you've done it once or twice, give it a little swirl. Most of the heat in a burner is going to be centered in the middle of the pot. So that's why we're doing this swirl, to get that even effect. Okay. Now, if you want to make a bigger batch of popcorn, I will get a few questions about that. If you want to make a bigger batch of popcorn, you could, in a pot this size, probably go up to half a cup, but you don't want the kernels to be any more than 1 layer deep. Okay, so really make sure that you don't add more than 1 layer deep to your pot. All right, so we're starting to get some action. Here we go. So now we can probably stop the swirling because it's going to work out all of the twisting itself. Woohoo! Okay, so now we have to pay attention pretty carefully because now we're listening for when we get a 2-second gap between pops. And that 2-second gap is going to prevent any burning. So it's still kind of consistently popping. Close. There's our 2-second gap. Okay, so straight off the heat. Hopefully that's all of our popcorn done. Again, lid away from yourself. See how much steam comes out of there? And then straight into a bowl so that we don't get the continuation of the cooking on the bottom level. There we go. Okay, so no unpopped kernels. I didn't hear any unpopped kernels fall to the bottom. And we've got our nice fluffy light popcorn. So easy, right? Now you're probably kicking yourself if you've been buying it up to this point, thinking it's easier to pop it in the microwave. One of the main ingredients in the microwave popcorns that are flavored like butter can be, not as much anymore in some cases. There was a really, I guess you could say, dangerous chemical that they were using as the butter flavor. So butter flavor used to be something called diacetyl butane or something like that. Can't remember the exact name, but they found it to be extremely carcinogenic and very dangerous. So most popcorn doesn't have that ingredient anymore, but I would still question all the other thousands of ingredients that go in to make a flavor, even if it's labeled natural flavor, can still have a whole bunch of other chemical ingredients in it. Okay, so there's our popcorn. It's always best fresh. So light. All right, and now this is the fun bit. So now we can actually add whatever kind of seasoning or flavor that you want. And I would challenge you to not just have your regular old salted popcorn if you can. If you are traditionally from Europe, you're probably not used to salted popcorn, you're probably used to sweet popcorn. And it caught me off guard like you wouldn't believe when I was living in France for a couple of months in my late teens on an exchange. We went to the movies, we all ordered popcorn, and we're at the movies, we're sitting there watching, and I'm digging into this popcorn, and I nearly spat it out because I was not expecting to have sweet popcorn. It was the most, if you're, when you're expecting one thing that's completely the opposite, it just, anyways. So, okay, where's everyone at? Did anyone successfully do that with me at the same time? Who was cooking at the same time? Hello, Melissa. Hi, Leslie. Sally, good to have you on. Bev. Chris, hello. Cheryl, watching this with some budding chefs. I love it, Cheryl. Good job. And Heidi, are air poppers okay? Good question. Yes, air poppers are great. I just find that they take a lot longer to produce the amount. So if your family's really popcorn hungry and you want to sit down to a movie faster, this is going to yield a much faster result. But yes, air poppers are great too. I find though with air poppers, most people are likely to add butter. Whereas when you do it like this on the stove, you can easily use that third pressed coconut oil. No one can tell any difference, especially once we add these other flavors to it as well. But it's very, yes, Nadine's got a bowl of popcorn, awesome. And hello, Erin. Okay, so here's the fun bit. Let's take a little bit of popcorn and we're just gonna season it up. I'm just gonna take a little bit of time because I wanna show you a whole bunch of different flavors. And here's how I would make the flavoring if I did that. So I like to use a secondary coffee grinder. I say secondary because this is not the one we ever do coffee in. I'm not allowed to do that. Otherwise it flavors the coffee incorrectly. I'm not the coffee drinker of the house. So instead I bought the separate coffee grinder just for herbs and spices. And it's saved a marriage. So here's how we go. Just kidding. Now the recipe that I've given you for the kind of a nacho cheese flavor is a little bit like your kind of Doritos chips, kind of, sort of. And this is how easy it is. Okay. Now the reason why we are using the grinder here is to make everything really powdery and evenly blended, particularly the nutritional yeast. So the nutritional yeast is probably a really common ingredient that you'll use in a lot of different flavorings on popcorn because it's so yummy if you like it. But here's how simple it can be. So you kind of will see that I've got this huge selection of my spice drawer out because I want to show you a few different flavors. But I'm roughly going to do about a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of onion powder, and a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now, in this case, I don't actually have garlic powder. I have garlic granules, which is why it's going to be good also that we're doing this in the grinder. Okay, so we've got granules. So we'll do about a teaspoon of that. Now, this, by the way, is going to be much too much spice mixture for that batch of popcorn. So I've done that on purpose, so that you don't have to do this twice. If you go to make your next batch of popcorn, you can save this in a little container as popcorn flavoring the next time. Or if you were making a double batch of popcorn for a bigger group, then this would be enough. Double, even maybe triple, this would be enough. Okay, so we've got our onion powder, our garlic powder, our paprika. Then I think a little bit of cumin doesn't go amiss, but only about half a teaspoon, so not as much on the cumin side. Okay, you could even do a little bit less if you're not sure about the cumin. And then we'll need about a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half of salt, depending on your salty preference. So I'll start out with a teaspoon. We can add more later. This is just a salt that has seaweed flakes in it already, just for a little bit of added minerals. Okay, how's everyone going? Hello, Bridget, welcome. And Michael. Yes, cool, Michael. And does anyone have any other flavor ideas? I'm gonna talk about some other ones, but if you already make something, flavored version, then let me know. I'd love to hear that. Okay, and if you like a little bit of kick, I like putting in a little pinch of chili powder into here as well. And those of you kind of that have access to North American ordering or North American spices, when they say chili powder, it's different meaning in North America than it is to Australia. So in Australia, chili powder means hot pepper, like cayenne or spicy. But in the States, chili is actually a specific plant that's either normally roasted or smoked. And it's a specific, sometimes even a combination of spices to create a specific flavor, which doesn't always have a lot of heat. It's more about the flavor. So they get a little bit more particular about their chilies over there, and you can get sort of 10 different kinds of chili over there. Okay, now nutritional yeast. I nearly forgot the main ingredient. Now, 3 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons, whatever you like. My tablespoon's a bit dirty still, so I'm just going to use a bunch of heaping teaspoons. And again, your popcorn, your way. However you want to do that. Okay, now we need to blitz it up to a fine powder. So a coffee grinder works well for this because it's designed to do this with coffee, obviously. The other devices you could use would be if you had a bullet blender and you had the second blade that it comes with. It's more of a flat blade as opposed to the spiky upright blade. The upright one's more meant for smoothies. The flat one's meant for grinding nuts, seeds, or spices in this case. Okay, so see how we now have this nice fine powder? That's actually going to stick to the popcorn, whereas if we'd have kept it quite chunky, it probably wouldn't have stuck very well. Okay, so ideally you'd have your spice mix made beforehand so that as soon as that popcorn comes out, it's still kind of got a little bit of that moisture and it's going to adhere to the popcorn a little bit better. So if you have to, you could maybe do a light sprinkling of olive oil. Ideally, you have your own pump of olive oil, not an aerosol spray, but your own mechanical pump that you can refill with your own choice of oil. And, excuse me, in that case, you could be spraying the oil over, which would be much more effective than trying to drizzle it evenly. Okay, so start with less. I mean, it does not take much spice at all to spice this up. So start with less, you can always add more after. And there we have your spiced popcorn. Oh my goodness. I know it's weird to eat on camera, but wow. Adjust as needed. Oh my gosh, okay. It's so worth the extra little bit of effort to spice up your popcorn. So that's kind of the nacho variety. Now let's get a little bit more creative. So I'm gonna need to empty this out for a second. Hang on. Gotta make space for the next one. So there, this one now I can just put into another little container. Like I said, label it popcorn nacho spice, or however you want to word that. And then the next time you make popcorn, it's easy for the kids to help or partner to help. Okay, so as long as we're not switching to sweet mode, I don't have to clean this out too much. Let's get creative. What else can we do? I've just pulled out a whole bunch of spices here. Now, like I said, the sky is the limit. What are your favorite flavors? Okay, some people love rosemary. So what could we put with rosemary? You could do rosemary and garlic. You could just do rosemary and a little bit of nutritional yeast. You could do rosemary and chili. Some people might like to get a little bit more creative. What are some brainstorm ideas here I had? You could add all 4 of those things: salt, nutritional yeast, garlic, and rosemary. So that's one option. You could even just do dill and garlic, and you can use fresh dill or dried dill. I personally also like using a little bit of curry powder, which is conveniently already powdered, a little bit of salt on your popcorn, and now you have this yummy kind of simple curry flavor. But let's get a little bit more creative still. Now, this reference, I'm sorry, might be a little bit lost on Australians, but bear with me here. This one's called cinnamon heart flavor. Now, given that we are on Halloween night here, I wanted to, I know it's not, February is normally cinnamon heart time for Valentine's Day, but for me, this is a very particular flavor. Those of you that have any background in North America at all, yes, Lena loves the cinnamon flavor. Yes, okay. So any background whatsoever, well, you'll know what I mean when I say cinnamon hearts. They were very common, at least when I grew up, as a little tiny little lolly. And it was kind of equally for breath freshening as it was a bit of a nice lolly, but they were hot in cinnamonness, okay? Really spicy. So here's how you could do this with a little bit of fun. If you love cinnamon, I'd say for the look of it, if you're going for cinnamon hearts anyways, we could use maybe a little 1/4 teaspoon of beetroot powder. Okay, so this is just dehydrated beetroot powder. I'm going to put a little bit of that in there for color, maybe a bit of bonus nutrition, but we won't tell the kids that. And then let's do a little bit of coconut sugar. So in this case now we're going sweet, but kind of spicy as well. Okay, so we'd probably need maybe 2 teaspoons of coconut sugar for this amount. And then a lot of cinnamon and probably some chili. Now, when I say chili here, I'm talking hot stuff. So if you've got cayenne powder or you've got sort of even hotter powder, I'm going to try a teaspoon of cinnamon. That was a bit more. And a little bit of heat, just for that little subtle aftertaste, after kick. Okay, so this is just a hot powder. Let's just start out with a bit less, seeing as we're mostly going for sweet. And let's give that a little blend. Okay, test number 2, cinnamon heart flavor. And this is the advantage of making it into a really fine powder, is that you don't have to have popcorn that's still wet, as in freshly steamy. So it'll still stick to this by being this fine of a powder. Okay, so we'll put a little bit of this on. Hopefully the pink will take once it moistens a bit. It's going to be overpowered a bit by the cinnamon color and the coconut sugar. Let's see how that goes. Again, make sure you're expecting sweet popcorn, otherwise it'll put you off. Okay, so one last flavor I want to show you, because this again gets a little bit addictive as you start going and creating flavors. I'll keep on the sweet note, and also I wanted to tell you about if you wanted to do more of a caramel sticky popcorn, then you can use wet ingredients. So you'd probably be putting together a little bit of, for example, maybe you've got almond butter, a little bit of tahini, some maple syrup. Lucuma powder is really commonly kind of caramelly flavored. Maybe you put in a little bit of vanilla, and you'd stir that up into a paste or blend it up in your NutriBullet kind of thing. And then you could drizzle it over. Now you could either eat it nice and sticky with a good set of dishcloths for the kids' hands, or you could then pop it into the oven from that point and re-dehydrate it out. So you wouldn't put it on any more than about 100, 120 degrees or so, and let that really dehydrate until you get this nice crispy, dry caramel popcorn. So that's one option. Or we can kind of keep it a bit drier to begin with. Now, this option will probably require a little bit of either an olive oil, like a light olive oil, or a little bit more oil when you cook it, because sometimes these ingredients can feel a little bit dry in order to get the flavor to come through. So here's how I would make, let's try and do like a mocha popcorn. Okay, so you could try, this is an organic instant coffee. You could do this, or you could use well, no, if you want to keep it dry and something that you could put back into the spice cabinet, it's probably best to use this. So definitely go organic if you're going to use instant. Otherwise, I'm not a fan of instant. And then I've got a bit of cacao powder. So we'll do probably 2 teaspoons of cacao, a bit of chocolate, okay, chocolatey powder, and a little bit of your magnesium dose as well. And then a little bit of coconut sugar. Without this, it's just, yeah, it's not going to come across as either sweet or savory. So we do need a bit of that sweetness to pull off a mocha flavor, in my opinion. And then a little bit of vanilla. Now, again, this will require you getting a powdered vanilla. So if that's not possible, you can go without it. I just think it adds a little bit of that nice extra caramelly flavor. Or you could use lucuma powder, even maybe maca powder. Okay, here we go. So, last but not least, ooh, Nadine, did you try the nacho flavor? Excellent. I'm glad you love it. Hello, Allie. Good to see you. And Katrina, welcome. Shannon, hello. Here we go. We're up to the mocha flavor. I'm just getting really creative, and now I'm really playing. This is my version of having fun on Halloween night. Popcorn flavors. Okay, so here's our little mocha spice. Maybe we could go a little bit more on this one. Toss that through. And there you have mocha. No more need for buying expensive flavored popcorns. Now, hopefully, can you guys see? Who can see that this is going to be really easy to make this a healthy snack that even the kids will go for, especially if you include them in on this process. All right? There we have it. That's it. What a quick and easy Cook With Me Live. If you guys don't have any other questions, I'm going to leave you to go make your dessert or snack or popcorn for tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time on Cook With Me Live.